I'm Dr. Ashley Boggan, the General Secretary of the General Commission on Archives and History of the United Methodist Church. And joining me is Reverend Stefanie Bennett, the 162nd pastor of John Street United Methodist Church and first woman appointed to this historic congregation. We have been filming in John Street Church, a historic church in our denomination and a heritage landmark of the United Methodist Church, recognized by the General Commission on Archives and History. The congregation has been worshiping here since the mid-1700s, and today this congregation and this church stand as a force for historical preservation while holding fast to God's plan for the future. Today we are exploring the church's relationship to the wider society and the revolution taking place in society. Reverend Bennett, do you see any similarities between the church then and the church now?
Absolutely. That was a time of very real unrest and upset. There was a period when people had no idea what was coming next. Norms were upended, assumptions could no longer be made, and people were confused and uncertain, and in particular in this city, because we were an occupied city during the Revolutionary period. And so we were cut off from so much of what was happening in other places and living under very different kinds of rules and administration of the British military. And, you know, it was a place that in those days when so much was confusing and so much was uncertain and so much had been upended, people could come here. People could come and be connected to one another. When they were uncertain and when the future was completely unclear, there was this opportunity to come and be present. You see these class meeting benches here. They're one of my favorite artifacts here at John Street because they really speak to what it meant to form relationships. They really show us what it must have felt like to be in a city where everything was changing and where you were not living your life necessarily in the way you'd intended to or the way you'd like to. And you could come here and develop relationships and experience community. This continues in the period after the Revolution because that's a time when New York begins to change very, very quickly. And so many people were coming to New York. It's in the post-revolutionary period that New York begins to eclipse both Philadelphia and Boston, becomes larger, the port becomes bigger. And so people are coming both from overseas, but also from the interior of the country. Most of the time, they were coming by themselves. So young men, young women, young men being apprenticed, like the Harper brothers from far out on Long Island, young women who were coming maybe at best with a sister to work as a housekeeper in someone else's home and maybe have a room in the basement or the attic. These were people who were otherwise disconnected from their family and their relationships. And those are the very people who are on our rolls in the post-revolutionary period. We have a reputation in that period as being a place where artisans were welcome, being a place where the middling class could worship, at a time when there were churches in this city where you could not sit on a Sunday morning because you had not paid for a pew. There was always a space for you at John Street. And in the Methodist churches that began to be established uptown as the city grew, got bigger, and people moved uptown. So I think when you compare that time to what's happening now, you can recognize that there is this sense of uncertainty, there is a lot of anxiety, norms are upended. What people might really need and respond to, what might be a gift to them, is a place of welcome, a place of community, a place where there's always a seat for them.
This church was integral in the fledgling relationship with the Methodist Episcopal Church and President George Washington. It was an example of true public theology. With all the public discourse on the place of the church in the national conversation, what does John Street's role in public theology say?
Yes, well, we are the longest witness. We're the longest Methodist witness on this continent. And we are just feet away from where one of the early skirmishes of the Revolution, the Battle of Golden Hill. It took place at the end of our block, and actually some of the injured people were brought to Wesley Chapel at the time. From that to the period of the Civil War, when the Methodist Church was figuring how to be an authentic witness to anti-slavery, not always getting it right, to other acts and evangelistic movements in that 19th century sense of the word, when there was a real belief that we could make a difference, that we could change the world, that we could ameliorate people's circumstances. And John Street has been that Methodist witness to God's love and grace and welcome for all these years.
Historically, we know the church was allowed to continue worship during the Revolutionary period, given the church's relationship to the Church of England. What stories do you know of that period that might be beneficial to us now?
That is a great part of our history. We were allowed to continue to worship when all of the other denominations' buildings in this neighborhood, and they were legion. I mean, there was Baptists and Quakers and several Dutch Reformed churches. They were utilized by the British military for either barracks. One of them was a horse stable. We were allowed to continue worshiping as long as we permitted Hessian troops to use the space on Sunday morning. But because we were different from the norm of the Church of England, and people really didn't know quite what to make of us, there were some Methodist preachers in some places that were pacifists, and that wasn't popular. And while Wesley did not approve of the revolution and definitely was on the side of the king, there was just this sense that people couldn't get a handle on who Methodists were. One of my absolute favorite stories, which I think is really useful for us to think about now, is there was a British military officer who came into service just as it was ending. And he said in a loud, booming voice, "We are now going to sing God Save the King." And people dutifully stood up and sang God Save the King. And then the worship leader said, "Now for our closing hymn, we'll sing the Charles Wesley hymn, Rejoice, the Lord is King." So it helps us to think about the fact that we have to decide where our loyalties are going to be, that our ultimate loyalty needs to be with Christ, and that the choices that we make and the decisions that we make as we move forward in the moment we're living in need to align with what we most fervently believe and in what we most fervently trust.
The first Methodists in this space might not have imagined where we as a denomination are now. But based on your knowledge and research of them, what might they help us learn about our own time?
They probably would be surprised that we're still here 250 years later, and would certainly be surprised that we're on our third building on the site. But as I said before, so much of what this community was about was a place where people could come and find a home and find connection. So much of what John Street's history is an opportunity to come and figure out who and how you want to be in the world, to discover like-hearted people who wanted similar things for their own life and for the benefit of the city. They were so committed to reaching out to not only telling people about Christ's love and God's grace, but they were committed to ameliorating the circumstances of people who were coming into the city and living in not great circumstances in many instances. So I think we could listen to their conviction that things are possible. The first few years that this society met, they met initially in Philip Embry's home and then in a few other homes, and then they were able to find a space they could use a few times a week, which is called the Old Rigging Loft. We have a little piece of wood from the Old Rigging Loft here, and it's right around the corner. There's a plaque there at the entrance to the subway, and they met there and started to really grow. And they began to think, wouldn't it be nice if we had a dedicated space, a place we could meet all the time? And that's a daunting idea. Again, these are not rich people. And that's a pretty big commitment to buy land and build the first Methodist preaching house in America. And so they decided, as Methodists do, that the way to discern what they should do would be to have 2 days of prayer and fasting. And during the 2 days of prayer and fasting, Barbara Heck, the mother of American Methodism, was praying and fasting, and she heard the voice of the Lord come to her and say, "I, the Lord, will do this." And so Barbara Heck went to her compatriots and said, "We are going to build a Methodist preaching house." So the first Methodist preaching house on the continent was built and stands on the same piece of land today that they bought in March of 1768.
Pastoring a historic church can be a daunting and a rewarding task. On top of that, your church also houses a museum to Methodism and its presence here in Manhattan and to our earliest history. So what is it like being pastor of John Street United Methodist Church, given its storied legacy and history?
I am the luckiest and happiest preacher in Methodism. This is the best gig in Methodism. I have so much fun here because I do get to talk American history pretty regularly with people, which is my favorite thing. And I also get to be a part of a living community. We are growing, and in fact, nobody lived in this neighborhood for about 200 years, pretty close to. Everybody moved uptown, and they established neighborhoods uptown in the early part of the 19th century. There was a long debate about whether we needed a church here. And there were many years where this congregation was very small and really was mostly a historical site, or was very committed and had sometimes it had an expansive weekday ministry to the business community that's here every week.
Now, you worship here every Sunday. What does it feel like to walk into such a historic place each week?
It's a remarkable feeling. You've been in our sanctuary. You know we are not shy about the cloud of witnesses here. There are plaques on the wall to pastors and lay people who have kept this place going, who brought leadership and love to this part of Lower Manhattan through the Methodist witness of grace. And I'm very mindful of that. And every time you step into the pulpit here at John Street, Bishop Asbury is staring you down. So there is a great sense of responsibility. Our very first preacher, Philip Embry, said that the best way to consecrate a pulpit is to preach a good sermon. And so I hope I reconsecrate that pulpit weekly and to get to continue this remarkable legacy of welcome, of community, and to think about how we can make a difference in the lives of the people in our neighborhood, how we can serve the people in our neighborhood. And I think the church is really going to have to figure out how to do something new and different. I think I look to history not because I want to replicate what was done, but I want to learn a lesson and think about what new and innovative thing did they do? What kind of values did they bring to their discernment process? What were they doing that was unique, that met a new need? I feel that it is a great and wonderful responsibility to make sure that it's always the case here, which is, again, why I think the benches are so vital and so important. They're, I guess, they're one of my favorite artifacts because I imagine somebody who was new to the city coming in and being introduced to 12 other people who asked them the question, how is it with your soul? And actually wanted to know the answer and to be encouraged, welcomed, required to come back every week.
Well, thank you, Reverend Bennett, and thank you for providing us with the stories of this historic site and for continuing the ministry that was begun here over 250 years ago. We appreciate you.
Thank you.